When we think about the crisis in Haiti, our minds usually jumped to politics or natural disasters. But what if a huge part of the problem, the root of everything, from crime to healthcare, was something way more fundamental? I'm talking about disorganized housing. Today, we're going to dig into how these sprawling, unplanned settlements aren't just a symptom of Haiti's troubles. They're actually the physical landscape that makes finding a solution almost impossible.
Just let that sink in for a minute. This quote from the source material is pretty shocking, right? It just perfectly captures the sheer scale of the problem. This isn't just about a lack of houses. It's about a total breakdown of social order, of basic human dignity. This problem actually has a name in Haitian Creole, logement désordre. It translates to disorganized housing. But that phrase doesn't quite do it justice. We're talking about entire communities built without any plan, without roads, without basic services. It's a physical chaos that literally cripples the nation's ability to function.
So what does this disorganization actually look like on the ground? Well, think about a planned community. You've got clear roads for police and ambulances, you have reliable electricity and water, and you have legal records for your property. But in these settlements in Haiti, it's the exact opposite. The streets are so narrow and winding, they're impassable for vehicles. The cell towers are so overwhelmed by the sheer density of people that they just fail. And with no formal property records, how can a government do anything? From law enforcement to taxes, it all just falls apart. And this creates this absolutely devastating domino effect. I mean, think about it. If police can't even get down the street to make an arrest, the whole justice system grinds to a halt. If there's no space set aside for hospitals or schools, healthcare and education just get choked off. It all leads to the creation of these lawless zones where the government effectively has no control at all. So you have to ask, how did it get this bad? This kind of crisis doesn't just happen by accident. It was really fueled by two deep-seated issues that have been plaguing Haiti for years. The problem really boils down to two parallel failures. First, you've got systemic government corruption that not only allows this chaos, but in some cases actually profits from it. And second, you have what the locals call ignorance, which is just a widespread lack of knowledge about safe construction and urban planning. So it's a crisis that's been created from the top down and from the bottom up. And here's how that failure works in the real world. Government records are all on paper, which means files for, say, a corruption case can just conveniently get lost. There's no real financial tracking, so government contracts can be insanely inflated with no one noticing. And here's the most disturbing part. Politicians actually exploited these lawless areas for their own gain by arming local groups to intimidate their rivals. And those same groups, they've now become the powerful, uncontrollable gangs that are terrorizing the country today. Okay, so when you're faced with a problem this deep, this tangled, the proposed solution has to be just as radical. And it's all built around a really powerful metaphor that explains the whole strategy. This quote is really the core philosophy. In other words, forget about small fixes. Forget about minor reforms or putting a Band-Aid on it. Those are useless here. The entire system is seen as the problem. It's a diseased tree. And the only way to get a lasting solution is to rip it out, roots and all. So what does uprooting the tree actually look like? Well, it's a huge, bold, two-part plan. First, the systematic demolition of all the disorganized settlements. And second, rebuilding from the ground up, creating modern, organized neighborhoods that are designed using actual science, looking at things like geology, population density, and infrastructure needs. But this isn't just some wild idea. There's a real structure behind it. The whole plan for this massive transformation unfolds in a pretty detailed four-phase blueprint. The plan is broken into 4 logical stages, which helps make this enormous task feel a bit more manageable. It kicks off with assessment and preparation, then moves into a year or more of planning and design, followed by a multi-year build phase, and finally, an ongoing monitoring phase to make sure it all actually works and lasts. Phase 1 is all about laying the groundwork properly. It starts with data. Using modern tech like GIS and satellites to map out the chaos and pinpoint the most dangerous areas. But critically, it's also about people. It involves educating communities to get their buy-in and trust. while at the same time tackling corruption from day one with new, transparent digital permit systems, maybe even using blockchain. The planning phase gives us a glimpse of the vision for what comes next. And it's not just about building houses. The proposed zoning shows a really balanced approach. Yeah, 60% is for homes, but another 20% is set aside for commercial use to create jobs, and another 20% for parks and public spaces. The goal here is to build actual livable communities, not just concrete blocks. This plan isn't being invented in a vacuum. It actually draws on successful urban renewal projects from all over the world. We're talking lessons from Singapore's super efficient public housing, Brazil's programs for relocating favela residents, and even Christchurch's resilient rebuilding after their earthquake. These are proven ideas, just adapted for Haiti's very unique set of challenges. In Phase 3, the building finally starts, and they begin with the most vulnerable areas first. All the new construction would have to follow strict international building codes to make sure it's safe, and to make sure the community actually benefits. The plan requires hiring at least half the workers from the local population, while also deploying a new community police force to keep the neighborhood secure once they're rebuilt. And finally, Phase 4. This is the crucial part that makes sure this project doesn't just fail like so many others have. It's all about the long term. We're talking constant performance tracking, being able to adapt and fix things that aren't working, and setting up a sustainable fund for maintenance, most likely paid for by a new, transparent property tax system. So this all brings us to the ultimate goal. And of course, the massive, massive hurdles standing in the way. The vision is nothing less than transforming the physical fabric of the nation to literally replace disorder with order. The target is incredibly ambitious: to cut down the negative impacts of this disorganized housing by 70 to 80%, and to do it all within a decade. Now, that's not just a number. That means a justice system that actually functions, hospitals that people can get to, and a real foundation for economic growth. It's a vision of a completely transformed Haiti. But of course, the final, critical question remains. The blueprint is there. It's radical, it's comprehensive, and it's based on what's worked elsewhere. But its success hinges completely on political will, on huge international support, and on the ability to overcome the very same corruption that created this crisis in the first place. It really leaves you wondering, can you truly build order from such profound chaos?